So here we see in garden peas that one pair of alleles controls the height of the plant and the second pair of alleles controls the flower color. So when you're reading this problem, they're talking about two different loci. So like here where it says alleles, this allele controls the height, that's one loci or locus on a chromosome, and then the allele for for height is one locus, and then you have a different allele dealing with flower color, and so for purple or for white, that would be a different locus on either the same or a different chromosome. And so here we're looking at two traits, and so when we go through this, we can see we want to write down first what's dominant for each one. So when we write down, like for height, tall is dominant and dwarf is recessive. And then we're going to write down that purple is dominant and white is recessive. So here they're talking about a tall plant with purple flowers. So we know this for that one parent. We don't know what the second allele is because they could be homozygous dominant or they could be heterozygous, but both of those would result in looking tall and purple. So a tall plant with purple flowers is crossed with a dwarf plant with white flowers. Okay. And it produces 1/4 tall purple, 1/4 tall white, 1/4, 1/4. What is the genotype of the parents? Okay, so you can try different possibilities, but also looking at this, at the information that is given to you right here, you can kind of think to yourself, okay, if I'm going to have like equal probability of these offspring, well, if we had, I'm going to say that if this was a homozygous dominant, then most likely, not most likely, then 100% of the offspring would be tall. And since you see here that you have dwarf offspring, we know this is not possible, that the parent has to be heterozygous. And then if we're looking at purple or white flowers, again, if the parent was homozygous dominant, then all of the offspring would be purple. But again, we see that there are offspring with white flowers, so it can't be homozygous dominant. And therefore, the first parent is heterozygous for both traits. Now the second parent, the problem tells you that they're dwarf with white flowers. Well, this is the only way you can be dwarf with white flowers, would be to be homozygous recessive for both traits. So for this problem, I didn't need to do a Punnett square, but I could if I wanted to double check. So if I want to double check that I'm right, we set up our dihybrid cross with 16 boxes. And then to set up, I would do, like foiling. So I'd take a capital D, can end up capital P, or it can end up with a recessive. So those are my two options for that one. And then for the recessive allele could end up with a dominant, or it could end up with a recessive. Now for this parent, we see that all of its alleles are basically going to have recessive. Like, that's its only option over and over and over again. So another shortcut that we could do, if we write a lowercase d and a lowercase p, really it's going to be repetitive all the way down. So do we really need to fill these ones in? No, we don't really have to, because they're going to be identical copies to the first row. So when I do this, I can see that here I have 1/4 is tall with purple flowers. I have 1/4 tall with white flowers. I have 1/4 dwarf with purple, and I have 1/4 dwarf with white. So that's how you do that problem. Now in horses, black coat color is influenced by the dominant allele, and a chestnut is influenced by the recessive. Okay, a trotting gait is due to a dominant gene. and a pacing gait is due to recessive. Okay, if a homozygous black trotter, all right, and because it said homozygous in front of these two traits, we're going to assume that they're homozygous for both, okay, is crossed to a chestnut pacer, what will the appearance be of the F1 and F2 generations? Okay, well, if I cross these two parents, I know that all of the offspring are going to be, of the F1, are going to be heterozygous for both traits. Then, to find out the F2 generation, you would take your heterozygous F1 crossed with another F1. And like we saw in class, when you cross these, you're going to get a 9:3 to 3 to 1 phenotypic ratio. So I'm not going to in the video, but you can go ahead and do a dihybrid cross for both of these, for these two parents. And if you look for all of the black trotters, you should find 9 of them. If you want to find the black coat that are pacers, you should have 3. And then here you'll have a chestnut trotter, you should have 3. And then a chestnut that's a pacer, you should have 1 out of 16. So for part B, which phenotype is the most common? Well, the phenotype that has dominant for both traits. Which genotype is most common? I don't know that off the top of my head. You'll have to do a Punnett square to check that. And then which of the potential offspring will be certain to breed true? Actually, when you do your dihybrid cross, the only 2 offspring that are going to be pure breeding is this one and this one. This one right here will be homozygous for both traits that are dominant. Oops. And then this bottom corner will be homozygous recessive for both traits. So those will be the ones that will be certain to breed true. Breeding true means homozygous. Okay. Now, a crosses between a yellow rat with a yellow rat always produce yellow. Okay, so I'm going to write that down. Yellow times yellow always gives yellow. That seems to be kind of like blue eyes with blue eyes always gives blue eyes. Now, the alleles of the same aspect of coat, crosses between a white rat and with a white rat and a white rat always produce white. Okay. The alleles affect the same aspect of coat color. The purpose of that sentence is to let you know that they're the same locus that they're talking about, like eye color, brown eyes, blue eyes, or something. The crosses of a white with a yellow produce a cream. Ooh, so then here we have a yellow crossed with a white, is going to make a cream-colored rat. So this is an example of incomplete dominance in a Punnett square. So incomplete dominance is when your heterozygote is going to be like a blending of the 2 parents. And so when we can maybe put some letters up here. So if we said like yellow is crossed with yellow, always gives yellow, and then white with white always gives white. Well, when you have the heterozygote that has a yellow and a white, well, now it's going to have a cream color. So when the question asks us, okay, well, what happens when you cross 2 cream-colored rats? So if we go like this, we should get, for like a phenotypic ratio, we have 1 yellow, 2 cream-colored, and 1 white. Now, that's the same ratio for genotypic, 1 to 2 to 1. Okay, so when you cross 2 creams, you should have 3 different colored offspring. All right, now assume that red plants crossed with white plants give rise to pink plants. Explain how to eliminate red plants if you start with 2 pink. So red and white give pink is another example of incomplete dominance. And so if you want to eliminate, let's say you're a plant breeder and you're a florist and you want to eliminate red plants, if we start with 2 pink plants, so we'll say that red, white, pink. Okay, so if we start with 2 pink plants, you would breed them, and you want to eliminate the red plant. So, what you would need to do is basically you would have to just breed a white and a white. That's the only way to eliminate red plants, because if you continue to breed pink plants, you will always have that red allele making red plants possible. And so you could either breed a white plant and a white plant, or you can breed, you could also breed a pink plant and a white plant that would also only produce pink and white with no reds. And so I guess that would be your answer. And in radishes, 2 incompletely dominant genes control color and shape. Red and white radishes are homozygous, okay? Whereas the hybrid is purple. So this is red, this is white, this is purple. Long and round are homozygous. And if crossed, will produce an oval. Okay. Give the phenotypic, or the F2 genotypic and phenotypic ratio. Well, we're not going to do the genotypic. Phenotypic ratio produced by crossing purebred red long radishes. So purebred red long radishes with white round varieties. So white and round. So that's your parental. Your F1, when you cross them, will all be purple with oval shape. And then your F2 is going to be slightly different. We're not going to get that expected 9-3 to 3-1 because that is dealing with traditional Mendelian genetics. So when you actually do a Punnett square, you're going to find a different ratio. And I think that's beyond what College Board would expect you to do. And so for this problem, I think just maybe practicing how to set up a Punnett square would be a good practice, but I don't think you have to be able to calculate the ratios of a dihybrid cross with incomplete dominance. Okay.